Uhuru. Uhuru.
And I'm just checking. Yep, looks like we are live, so that's great. Okay, so we just want to welcome everybody to yet another episode in our weekly series of the live Reparations Report, co-sponsored by the African People's Solidarity Committee and the Uhuru Solidarity Movement, the organization of white people formed by working under the leadership of the African People's Socialist Party, extending the African Revolution into the white society, into the oppressor nation population. And we want to start off by giving a profound revolutionary salute to our leadership, to the African People's Socialist Party, the vanguard party of the African working class and oppressed peoples of the world, and its founder and leader, Chairman Omali Yeshitela, as well as all of the amazing leaders of the African People's Socialist Party, especially Deputy Chair Onezene Yeshitela, who we had the great honor of interviewing last Saturday on the Reparations Report about all of the mind-blowing work that she leads to construct the foundation of an independent anti-colonial African economy. And we want to just salute the theory and strategy of African internationalism, and especially in this period of crisis for imperialism, for parasitic capitalism, in which the African People's Socialist Party has launched a people's war, not just against COVID-19, but against all manifestations of colonialism and blood-sucking parasitic capitalism that have oppressed African people and the planet Earth for the last 600 years. And I also want to salute who is the chair of the African People's Solidarity Committee, has been leading under the leadership of the chairman and the party for over 40 years to build white solidarity with Black power. So we're really excited to have this discussion tonight. We want to thank everybody who's tuning in on Facebook and or YouTube. If you are not already a follower of our Facebook and YouTube pages, Uhuru Solidarity Movement, please go ahead and like our page on Facebook, subscribe to our channel on YouTube, click get notifications so that next time we go live, you can actually get notifications on your phone or on your computer, so you never miss another episode of the Reparations Report, such as this one tonight, which will be focusing on the topic, Don't Die for Wall Street, Pay Reparations to African People. We want to talk about what's happening in the world right now through the eyes of the African working class and how it informs our responsibility as white people to go into our own white society and build a movement for reparations to African people. We are also committed to raising resources. We want to encourage people to donate to the blackpowerblueprint.org. We're going to be telling you more about that as we go forward, and to really take a stand for reparations, to be active, not to retreat in this period, but to come forward and take a stand and join the struggle and get in the fray, join the fight and be part of the winning team. So we want to raise $300 to blackpowerblueprint.org. So, go to that website, make a contribution. If we can raise $300, we will be well over the Black Power Blueprint's benchmark of having raised $38,000 in this particular period for the projects happening in St. Louis under the leadership of the African working class. We're also going to be talking about the USM National Convention, Reparations Uprising, and how you can participate in that by going to uhurusolidarity.org/register. So without any further ado, let's talk about the whole question of reparations in the context of the COVID-19 crisis. Let's talk about this topic, Don't Die for Wall Street. Chairwoman Penny Hess.
Uhuru, thank you, Comrade Jesse, for that great introduction. And I want to join in saluting Chairman Omali Yeshitela, leader of the African People's Socialist Party and the Uhuru movement, who has fought for the liberation and reparations to African people for over 50 years, and who is giving incredible leadership in this period in what the party is calling the People's War campaign, which is very, very profound. And we'll be talking about that a little bit more. Of course, I want to salute Deputy Chair Onezene Yeshitela, who leads the Office of Deputy Chair, which encompasses a huge amount of work and over 50 institutions of the African People's Socialist Party and its various fronts. So, and also, all of the African People's Socialist Party, Dr. Aisha Fields, who is leading the Black Unk Project, Director Akile Anai, who leads the party's Burning Spear newspaper, and the radio station, and just, just the tremendous work and leadership of the Vanguard Party. So we're talking tonight about the theme of Don't Die for Wall Street. We've seen that, of course, Wall Street and Trump, Trump saying he wants to get everybody back at work and back at church by Easter, which is 2 weeks from tomorrow. And that, it doesn't matter, what is the status of the coronavirus situation. And obviously, if we look at the trajectory of this virus, of this epidemic that we see, there's no way that everything's going to be up and running in 2 weeks from now. And of course, but only, for the interest of Wall Street would that even be talked about, not the interest of the people. So one of the things that we're really going to focus on talking about tonight is imagine a society in which the people are the priority and not the profit motive, not the wealthy, not the interests of the moneyed sector and the politicians and the ruling class of imperialism. So we want to talk about that, and in reality, that is what the People's War Campaign represents of the African People's Socialist Party. It is about African workers' governmental power, taking power to govern themselves, and dual and contending power of the African working class in contention with the power and the economy of US imperialism, which is parasitic, born on the assault on Africa and African people, and on the kidnapping and enslavement of African people, and the genocide of the indigenous people, the theft of their land, and the colonization of the majority of humanity. So, we want to talk about that, and we agree, don't die for Wall Street. But, what we're seeing in the media and on Facebook right now, Jesse, is a lot of white people trying to find interesting ways to pass the time. And, what books to read, what to watch on Netflix, right, what apps to get for your kids, what kinds of things that you can do to pass the time. What kind of wine should you drink when you have it delivered from Whole Foods? Of course, it takes 5 days to get there. What kind of food should you be cooking now? And of course, the New York Times had a whole section on cooking different kinds of tuna, canned tuna, to be delicious for your time in quarantine. Mm-hmm. So, it's really oppressive, because when you look at the reality in the entire world, when you look at the conditions of the African community, when you look at people, first of all, who cannot work at home because they don't have that kind of job, because they work physically in a factory or some kind of service industry that doesn't function online. So they don't have those jobs. They often don't have the healthcare that would be needed, if they even have a job whatsoever. So, we're also talking about the conditions of African people on the continent of Africa. We're talking about the Venezuelan people who the US has just seriously attacked. Mm-hmm. And, just the government of Venezuela, the government that represents the interest of the poor and working class of Venezuela, the ones that loved and revered Hugo Chavez, mm-hmm, and what he represented, turning over the wealth of Venezuela's oil economy over to the needs of the barrios and the working class districts and people, and uplifting people from poverty. The US government came out a couple of days ago, the Trump administration, attacking Nicolas Maduro, who is the president, and charging him, and I believe it was 8 other members, high-level members of the government, of drug trafficking in the middle of this. Meanwhile, with the sanctions that have already been levied on and continue to be levied upon Nicaragua and the fact that the US has already fiercely starved the people out by lowering the price of oil and thereby nearly bankrupting the entire government. So it's been under attack for many years. And now is this indictment that the US put on, one of the rare times that has ever put an indictment on any other elected president of a country. I think the last time was Manuel Noriega in Panama, and of course he ended up in prison in the United States. So for many years, in fact, I think he was just released in the last year or so. So I'm talking about what's happening around the world. I'm talking about the fact that on the continent of Africa, there's no infrastructure of health whatsoever. There's no infrastructure in this country for African oppressed people. There's no chance to get on a ventilator. We see that that the government and the hospitals are going to make the decision on who lives and who dies, and we already know who that's going to be, who gets a ventilator and who doesn't, who gets the opioids to let them die. And there's so many factors that we're facing. They're talking about the prisons. How many Africans who are stuffed into these prisons as a colonial concentration camp are going to die and turn those prisons into charnel houses of dead bodies as a means of genocide against African people. And I'm very serious, as around the world, people are suffering. And yet we have white people talking about, wow, how to enjoy ourselves under this quarantine. So, the Chairman Omali Yeshitela has put out that this pandemic is a crisis now because it affects white people, but it obscures the norm of imperialist violence and suffering and massive death that African people and other oppressed and colonized peoples around the world face every single day. It is not an issue. It is not, just a galvanizing point that everybody has to even recognize, that we have been able to go ahead and live our lives on this pedestal, with our rose-colored glasses, with our life intact, how to move forward, how to enjoy things, even under quote adversity, when the normal is African women being raped and killed in the Congo by US-backed forces that feed the computer industry, the tech industry, the phone industry, and everything else to make our lives, function every single day, and on and on and on. But now it's something that white people have to experience. So therefore, it's something that all the media is talking about. But I want to, say that I really want to call on us. I want to call on white people to do more than just use this as an opportunity to have a nice little solitary vacation. I want us to look around and see the world as it really is. I want us to be able to jump in and take action, because there are plenty of things that we can do right now. From the Uhuru Solidarity Movement, we are still working to raise reparations to African people. We are working to build this solidarity movement under the leadership of the African Revolution, and to win white people to solidarity with the People's War Strategy, to winning reparations, to taking on the moneyed sector, which is so blatant and outrageous in the middle of this crisis, that even some white people have felt it when they're calling on white people to go back to work when half the country is still sick. That, again, we want to look at the world as it really is, that we live on a pedestal of the oppression of everybody else. And if ever there was a time to depart of changing the world, it is now. It is now. And it's not through charity. It's not through doing a favor or throwing a crumb or a morsel into some free food bank or something else like that. It is to get organized under the leadership of the African Revolution, which has the main goal for it to win, to liberate Africa, to unite it and unite African people everywhere. The US imperialism and parasitic capitalism around the world must be wiped off the planet Earth.
Yeah.
That is simply a reasonable goal.
Very much.
Because people, for the majority of the planet Earth, and certainly for Africans everywhere, the COVID-19, the situation that people are under, this virus, is everyday life.
Yep.
Not just Ebola, not just even that, but just the conditions that people face. Will there be a tomorrow for them? Will there be a bite to eat for their family in the next 24 hours? Will there be a home that they can live in? Will there be any stability within the colonizing entities called countries that they live in? And what will be their future? That is what they wake up and have to ponder every single morning. Will there be a future for their children? So you and I and all of us in the white community, in the white population here, sitting on this pedestal, we have an opportunity and a mandate to the world, a responsibility to the entire world to take up action, to do something, not a reform, but that puts us under the leadership of the African working class. Uhuru.
I really appreciate that, Chairman Penny. I'm sorry if you just heard some feedback. There was another stream playing there, but
okay.
Yeah, I really unite with what you're saying, and I think this is so important and just absolutely critical that we're saying these things and that we're talking to other white people and arming white people on how to take this conversation out into the world. Because when we look at, these articles that you're talking about, like, how to, what food to cook during the quarantine, and, things that you've talked about, like how to take care of your dog, what wine parties and things like that. And we're looking at the conversation that the white world is having with itself right now. And, part of that conversation is also this sentiment that we're talking about of white people who are seeing Trump basically saying, like, and Trump and many Wall Street proponents basically saying, like, oh, boo-hoo, some people are going to die, but we can't let the US economy tank over that. So we got to get things raring to go by Easter. And that's where this whole not dying for Wall Street thing comes from. But as you said, it's not enough to just quote unquote not die for Wall Street when it is the lives of white people that are being potentially threatened by the ability for Wall Street to function. That Wall Street's ordinary functioning pre-COVID-19 crisis was predicated upon death imposed on millions of African from its very inception. I mean, to the point where the actual buildings on Wall Street rest upon graveyards of the bones of enslaved African human beings.
That's right. Literally. Yes.
Literally. So yeah, don't die for Wall Street. Make Wall Street die. Make parasitic capitalism. The sword we can wield in that battle is reparations to African people under the leadership of the African Revolution. And I also really appreciate the way you've been, really calling upon us white people to, step out of the slump that really the white ruling class is really encouraging us. I mean, I see these articles about how to take, how to not be too productive. They're trying to tell white people, like, don't work too hard during the quarantine. you need to relax, you need to do this, you need to do that, you know, and that we really want to just shatter that and say, like, actually, a moment of crisis for imperialism is an urgent opportunity and call for us to take action. And we have to take action. That's what the party is doing. That's what the People's Socialist Party is doing. They're not laying back and going on vacation. You know, imperialism is not on vacation. So the revolution is working overtime right now to take advantage of this situation, to build self-government, to address the needs of the people in the African working class. And that's what we have to do. And, you know, I think now is the time to stop looking for ways to enjoy ourselves during our self-imposed isolation. We've been doing that for hundreds of years, isolated from the rest of humanity on this pedestal of slavery and genocide. So now is the time to change our ways and
yes. So, join humanity. Join humanity, you know, turn loose our whiteness. Exactly. I mean, it's so silly how just hilarious, you know, just stupid we are, because here we are walking our dogs. I mean, you know, I was out for a walk and I just saw all these white people and their dogs were talking to each other. You know, it's like, really, you know, this world is in a deep crisis and things have to change. It's not going to stay the way it is. No. This is, you know, the world is changing, and obviously it's changing very, very deeply right now. And as Chairman Omali Yeshitela tells us, it is changing because of the resistance of African and oppressed people around the world. And nothing could make, you know, just the emperor with no clothes look more obvious than this situation that we're in right now. And, you know, this is going to deepen, and what the chairman calls the uneasy equilibrium is turning on the side of the people. And that's what we see with the whole struggle, not just for protest that the African People's Socialist Party is about, but it's about winning and claiming and seizing dual and contending state power in the hands of the African working class. That's the people's power. That's what the people's power is in this country. That's
it. That's the heart of it. Absolutely. So that's what we got to get on board with right now, and take this opportunity, seize this moment. This is it is so raw and exposed. I mean, let's talk briefly about this so-called economic stimulus bill that just signed into law.
Another big gift to the moneyed sector and the white ruling class, and they know it. Could I just say something about that? Because they know it. That's why they gave a crumb or two to working people, to white working people, and to a little bit to Africans, maybe. But, you know, because they know they're scared, as the chairman has said, they're scared. They're scared of the masses of African people and the oppressed and colonized, and white people who would be in solidarity, storming down their gated communities and rushing right in and taking back what belongs to African people and returning it in the form of reparations. It's a big, big demand at this moment. They're scared and they must pay. They must pay. We must make them pay. They have to pay reparations. To African people. Uhuru,
absolutely. So let's look at some dollars and cents here, because when we talk about reparations, reparations, as the chairman has said, is ultimately a function of the revolutionary struggle of African people. And also, as part of that, the US government, these corporations, these moneyed individuals, they have to actually pay, literally. They need to pay money. They need to turn over the stolen loot towards the African revolution, towards the economic institutions, the strategy of the African liberation movement. And that is something that goes into the trillions and trillions of dollars, really untold wealth that has been ripped off from African people. But let's start with the 2 trillion that was just turned over to the corporations. And I'll explain why in a moment. We say, based on the chairman's understanding, that yes, all 2 trillion was given to the corporations, not just 500 billion. So essentially, another bailout for the moneyed sector, for the capitalist elite. And as Chairwoman Penny Hess said, they did this because they're scared. That's why, they're going to send $1,200 eventually to some people, to some taxpayers, quote unquote. But let's see where the money is going. So the corporations, which I don't think they have disclosed which corporations yet, that will be very interesting. I'm sure we'll be talking about that next week at some point if they do release that information. But they are supposed to tell us which corporations are going to be receiving this $500 billion that's being put aside for them. The military is getting more funding, even more funding than they already get. The Department of Defense is getting an extra $10.5 billion, including $1.5 billion for the National Guard to deploy up to 20,000 on-call soldiers. And the bill will also spend $415 million on research and development work at the Pentagon. Okay, so this is the coronavirus emergency relief bill is sending money to the Pentagon. The airline industry, $58 billion, and some of that is grants. So just to point that out, they talk about loans for small businesses, quote unquote, but they're giving $29 billion in grant money to the airline industry. And then just to be able to say, well, we did something for the people, a $1,200 check to some, not all taxpayers. And in the last week, in the last few days, over 3 million people in this country filed for unemployment. So that gives you an indication of what some economists are predicting will be the worst recession that this economy has ever seen. And as the chairman has said, it's not just $500 billion that goes to the corporations, it's all of it that goes to the corporations, because that $1,200 that they plan to send to people in this country is so that people will have enough money to pay rent, pay utilities,
right,
groceries from the corporate grocery chains. Basically, it all goes back to the corporations.
Right.
And of course, under this new stimulus bill and under the nonsense that the US government has been peddling out at their little daily press conferences, free testing still not available to people in this country, not accessible, certainly not to African people. And, then there was this thing I'm sure people saw where these 4 senators actually sold stocks shortly after a briefing in January, outbreak, unloading shares that plummeted in value a month later as the stock market crashed in the face of the global pandemic. And according to financial disclosure forms, Kelly Loeffler, James Inhofe, and I actually don't care that I'm mispronouncing their names, Dianne Feinstein, and Richard Burr.
Yeah, Feinstein from California. She's been in for probably more than 40 years. Yeah.
She's a relic in there. And each of them sold hundreds of thousands of dollars in stocks, hundreds of thousands within days of the Senate holding a classified briefing on January 24th with Trump administration officials on the threat of the coronavirus outbreak. So the reason why this is particularly notable is because at this time, the US government, including these senators, is saying to the public, don't worry, it's not a big deal, it's a hoax, Meanwhile, behind closed doors, they've got the insider trading secrets.
Right.
So they're selling their stocks, So it really shows you the true nature of this social system, that it's all about money. This system does not care about you at all. It doesn't care about human beings. And why would you expect it to when it's built on the bloodshed and degradation and rape and murder of African and indigenous people? What would you expect anything less than a foul, rotten social system that's all about profit, profit, profit for the ruling elite and nothing else? That's all there is to it. That's parasitic capitalism.
Right. I mean, it's so clear. It's so clear. We can't accept the world as it is. And meanwhile, the US is continuing its war all around the world. It's continuing its assault on African people inside this country. The two Americas continue, the conditions of the indigenous people, intense poverty and oppression. And that is not a question. That is nothing that we worry our little heads about on any given day. And, you know, this is the life, you know, this is the life that we are saying that we must be about changing the world. And I know that even as there are many white people who are trying to have the best lifestyle possible under quarantine or lockdown, that the fact is that there are thousands and tens of thousands of white people who want to join into a meaningful relationship with the national liberation, under the leadership of the national liberation of the African population here and around the world, and see that as taking a stand for reparations and transforming the world. We know that because we see that. We see more people joining and wanting to be part of the Uhuru Solidarity Movement and to hook up with the institutions of the party, Uhuru Furniture, Uhuru Foods, and other fronts of the greater economic community of the African People's Socialist Party and the Uhuru movement. So, you know, we know that you're out there, and this is a very, very exciting time for those of us who want to jump into struggle when imperialism is so weak and the leadership of the African working class is so strong. So we're talking about parasitic capitalism. That I think that's such an important thing, Jesse, because that is the main question of this political theory called African internationalism, which Chairman Omali Yeshitela has laid out for us, for all people. It is certainly the worldview of seeing reality through the eyes of the African working class and the oppressed and colonized working classes of the world. And through this point of view, the chairman has exposed serious contradictions that were in the understandings of Karl Marx and Lenin, who are still upheld as the last word on socialism and anti-imperialism and general struggle among the white left in this country and really in many parts of the world. And the chairman has corrected, not in a way that, in an undialectical way that maybe white people would do, right, of just like, oh, so just trash right, Marx and Engels and Lenin. But no, what the chairman did was took what they struggled to analyze and to put out, but put it into the reality as experienced and the necessity for struggle on the part of the African working class, those who had been the pedestal upon which capitalism was built and which it still exists. And you know, one thing I know is that it's often put out in left and liberal circles that capitalism was built, it was born in Europe as this sort of gentle evolution of feudalism into capitalism through these guilds that people had, whether they were cobblers or weavers or, you know, all these medieval kind of guilds, lace makers and that kind of thing, that suddenly turned into capitalism. That's what we're taught. But even Marx himself said, well, wait, how was it birthed? Because you can't have a business without capital infusion, and we know that. But how was it birthed? And he said, well, it was from the primitive accumulation of capital. And by primitive, he meant the first accumulation of capital. The first, where did that come from? And he said it came from, as Chairman Omali Yeshitela never tires of explaining and you know, teaching, that it came from turning Africa into the warren for the hunting of black skins. In other words, the kidnapping of African people and turning African human beings into commodities for sale. That's what, and then the stolen wealth of the labor, the value of the labor of African people stolen for hundreds of years, created the greatest concentration of wealth ever produced on the planet prior to that. Never had been anything like what African people produced under their enslavement. And he's also, he talks about the Opium Wars. He talks about the forcing indigenous people into the silver mines and the mines, and the theft of the wealth, where of course indigenous people were worked to death in these mines in South America, and the theft of indigenous land, even the Opium Wars onto China, stealing the resources, colonizing the majority of the planet. This is what brought in the wealth. But it took Chairman Omali Yeshitela to say, that real human beings, trillions, literally, of real human beings on this planet were and still are what Marx called primitive accumulation, that he could just politely, and euphemistically put into a little category, that are human beings' lives, that all of the contradictions in the world today come from this. So I just want to say that, because that is so real for today. And that, so therefore, if we look at this conclusion, what Chairman Omali Yeshitela is saying is that the only revolutionary force, the leading revolutionary force inside the borders of the United States, is the African working class. And that is pretty amazing. And it's the African working class, especially inside the US and around the world. And, a lot of white people always ask, well, what about the indigenous people? Well, the African working class, the African People's Socialist Party, has always fought for the bringing with them indigenous people, all oppressed and colonized people. The Palestinians, they have done everything they could possibly do to be in international solidarity with the Palestinians, with the indigenous, with the Mexican people, with oppressed and colonized peoples everywhere. And I really hate answering that question to white people in a way, because it's really foul. It's really foul, because this is the way it's white people that divide, conquer, split everything up, split people up, divided up Africa so that things can be taken out. It's African people that bring the world together, that are bringing the world together, that is what will defeat imperialism. And so the point is that I'm trying to make right here is that the African Revolution is our revolution. The African Revolution is our revolution. So when we pay reparations, we are returning the wealth that has to go into the hands of the African working class, and therefore to the oppressed and colonized of the world. And if we want socialism, and there are many of us who say that we do, this is how socialism is built. As the chairman says, the road to socialism is painted black. So it's not a favor that we're doing. It's not a nice little charity pastime. It's a revolutionary stand to say that I'm on the side of reparations to African people. And so that is really powerful. I just really want to say that. So what does that mean? It means that if we're revolutionaries, the African Revolution is our leadership. The African People's Socialist Party, which is the vanguard of the African working class, which will seize power and seize the means of production, is our leadership. We are part of the African Revolution. It is not a favor. It is not even solidarity in that way, because the African Revolution is stuck in these borders here, imprisoned in these borders. And but it's facing the white population. And the African People's Solidarity Committee is a part of a strategy to win sectors of the white population to become African internationalists, to see the world as the African working class and oppressed and colonized people see it, and take that struggle into the white population. That's what we're doing. So when African people have people's power and waging a people's war, that is the power for everyone. That is the power for all the people who will be on the side of the African Revolution and be part of fighting it. And our part of fighting it is, our part in the People's War right now is unleash those reparations from the moneyed sector of the white population and from white people as a whole. And, you know, so I'm just saying that because when African people have power, and right now they have a plan, you know, the party has this program to build the People's War around the COVID-19, and also to build the Black Ankh, which is African people's own disaster relief program, you know, under the leadership of the African working class, and not some horrible Red Cross, which is another form of colonial domination and exploitation and even colonial violence against African people, that this is another way that African people take this in their hands. So the Black Ankh is ours too, because we align ourselves under the leadership of the African working class. So this is all just to say, because we have to, you know, understand that this whole situation in the United States right now with the COVID-19 is about money. It is about the profit. It is about parasitic capitalism. But there is another way, and that is the way that the African working class will lead it. That is the way that Cuba is working to lead it. That is the way that even in some choices, in some situations, China tried to do. They put the people over the profit. And so, you know, we could look at how could this situation be now if it were the people? Well, first of all, it would be free testing, free healthcare, doctors who were committed to the people. The whole society wouldn't be about, I have a democratic right not to be in lockdown. This is a democracy and I'm a white person and I don't have to do this. I can be out partying. You know, it could be that we would have, like China did, like Wuhan, 10,000 volunteers of healthy people who came out and delivered food and medications to people who need it. This is the society that we could live in which this is the society that will be formed by the African working class in leadership and in power. So, you know, anyway, I just want to say that there's so many, you know, you see what Cuba is doing. It's sending its doctors all over the world. And their doctors don't make $100,000 a year. Their doctors have backpacks on their back and sneakers on. And they're going out there and doing whatever they have to do around the world. And they've already done that to every country in the world that needed it. They offered to come into New Orleans during Hurricane Katrina, but Bush wouldn't let them do that. But this is the world that I want to live in. Yeah, and maybe you can't have, you know, a $15,000 dog anymore, or a big, you know, Subaru SUV anymore. But maybe you can live in a world that there's no war, that there's no, that you don't have to live behind security bars and alarms going off and everything like that, that we can live in a world in which science isn't about building bioweapons and bombs and war, but science is about how to live on this planet and to live with the planet as part of it even surviving based on everything that imperialism has done to it. So I know that that is a long answer, but I just really think that, you know, we have to understand this. The party's people war, African People's Socialist Party's people's war is our war. Yeah. This is revolution is our revolution, and that we have a job in it, and we have to wake up others like it, like ourselves, and get into action, get into organization under the leadership of the party, and that's the Uhuru Solidarity Movement. Pay reparations. Let's take on this ruling class. Let's bring them down and make them pay every single cent that they have stolen to African people back, so that there can be the people's government under the leadership of the African working class that is for everyone who's on the side of the liberation of Africa, indigenous people, and all oppressed and colonized people on the planet Earth, and wants to see imperialism go forever wiped out on this planet. Uhuru.
Uhuru. Uhuru. Wow. All right. There it is. The Reparations Report, Chairwoman Penny Hess. So just want to salute that. That was very, very profound. And I completely unite. It's deeper even than solidarity. It's deeper than solidarity. And reparations is our front right now. But we are part of the revolution. We are part of the African revolution. It's our revolution. Chairman Omali Yeshitela is our leadership. The African People's Socialist Party is waging the people's war for all the people on the planet Earth who want to go forward and be part of a future without oppression and exploitation. So this is ours. This is not something we're doing for someone else, or to have solidarity in some kind of abstract way that becomes almost like glorified charity. This is
right,
actually, we are linked up right in there with the people's war. We are among the people's war. So this is very exciting, and I unite, and I want to appreciate people who have contributed. Well,
wow.
starting with our first donor, which is Johan Bedingfield, who put in $25.
Uhuru Johan. Wow, what an amazing comrade, Uhuru Johan.
Yes, Johan has been on the front lines of the People's War under the leadership of the party for quite a long time.
Yes.
He is an amazing comrade. And I ran into him and had a nice social distanced Uhuru reunion with him recently.
All right.
And I also, oh, by the way, I saw something where it said that it should really, and this was from, I think from an Indian person saying that it should be physical distance and social unity. And I think in the context of under the leadership of the party, I agree. We must have, social unity.
That's great.
So, okay, so the other thing is, just want to encourage people, go to blackpowerblueprint.org.
Yes. Put in the reparations. We can raise, thank you, Johan, for doing that. So we only need $275 more.
275, and actually, if everybody who's tuning in on Facebook and YouTube puts in $10, we will surpass our goal. So I'll throw in $10. All
right, I'll put in $10.
All right, there you go. That's 45 right there. Encourage everybody who's watching.
Everybody put in $10. We can make our goal. Let's do that. Let's do it. Absolutely. $10. Yeah, I mean, maybe you can't go to Starbucks right now, but you can put in your latte money.
Yep.
Right now. So let's let's put it in. Let's raise this resources. This goes to the Black Power Blueprint, to the greater front of the African workers' economy, led by Chairman Omali Yeshitela and Deputy Chair Onozine Yeshitela, all over the U.S., not just St. Louis, Philadelphia, Oakland. These incredible institutions that have withstood earthquakes and political attack and every possible thing are temporarily closed, but they're going forward. They're going to be stronger than ever. There's an outpouring of amazing support for Uhuru Furniture in Oakland, Philly, and Uhuru Foods and Pies in Oakland and St. Petersburg. People are donating, people are joining. It's very, very exciting. People love those institutions in those places. And, we want it to be stronger than ever. For the Black Power Blueprint, there are a number of very exciting projects. The planting of the Gary Brooks Community Garden, which is put off a little bit, but it's going to be happening. The opening and launching of the One Africa, One Nation marketplace at the Gary Brooks outdoor event space has to be postponed from May 2nd, but hopefully it can be on June 2nd. It's gonna happen. It's gonna be very powerful. The community is very excited about it. And, so many other projects that are up and out there, including building the outdoor basketball court down the street a little bit, down West Florissant from the Uhuru House, probably about 5 blocks. That's just so exciting. We've got to make these happen. And of course, the Black Power Blueprint, the Office of Deputy Chair, and the African People's Socialist Party know that these are going to be successful. They are winning. They have already transformed the entire just level of excitement and unity on the north side of St. Louis in the African working class community.
Uhuru. Sorry, I was on mute. Yeah, I really appreciate that. And I agree that these institutions of the African People's Socialist Party, the Black Power Blueprint, and all the economic institutions, they're very unique and unlike anything else that's out there. And that's part of why they are actually not only going to survive this crisis of parasitic capitalism, but actually emerge on the other side bigger and better and stronger. And that has been Chairman Omali Yeshitela's intention, that he has made clear that the entire movement is going to come out of this situation in better shape than it was going in. And like you said, this is not the first time that some outside force originating from parasitic capitalism in one form or another would try to shut down the party's economic institutions. They, unlike all these other white small businesses that have maybe taken some hits in this period, the party's economic institutions have never existed comfortably within the capitalist economy. They have always existed as part of a contending economy, a dual and contending power in the hands of the African community. So the power of these institutions rests in the support of the people, in the rich history of popular support that these institutions have in Philadelphia and Oakland and St. Louis and everywhere around the world. And that is evidenced by the many, many people who have donated to the Black Power Blueprint. The fact that we're so close to raising $38,000.
39,000. We're almost to 39,000.
All right. So yeah, if people put in, we're getting up to 40,000, and we want to make that happen. So yeah. I want to shout out a couple more people who have put in. Midler.
Yes, Stephanie, Uhuru, our comrade, Oakland, California, works in Uhuru Furniture under the Office of Deputy Chair. Been a little under the weather, not with coronavirus, but with some other problems right now. And just really salute you, comrade. Great to see your name here. Yes, Uhuru.
Yeah. Uhuru Stephanie. And it says in here, Catherine Riley, as we know her, Kitty Riley. So Uhuru.
Kitty, Uhuru, $10.
$10. And Kitty says, reparations to the People's War Commission to defeat COVID-19.
Uhuru.
And Leah Fifield, who I want to give a really special shout out to this amazing person, amazing comrade who has raised just tremendous resources for the work of the party through the Reparations Challenge, acupuncture work and different fundraisers that she has held. So I really, really want to salute Leah as a great example to white people who want to stand on the side.
Yes, fantastic. Really salute you, Leah.
Yes, Uhuru. And Leah put in $10. So
Uhuru.
So
I think we have 30, 40, 50, 75, right? 75?
I think we're at more than that, actually. We have 75. Oh, okay. No, you're right. We're at 75. I'm sorry. We're at 75.
Okay. All right. Well, let's get to, we only need 225 more.
There you go.
Let's fight for it.
Yes, we can do this. So, Uhuru. Well, we are actually going to be winding down soon. So as we do that, we want to encourage people to continue contributing. I also want to shout out somebody who joined the Uhuru Solidarity Movement in the last hour. Which is very exciting. Brooks Bowen.
Okay.
So that's awesome.
Where's Brooks from?
I don't have that information on
Okay.
that. I will find out, but Brooks became a $25 a month sustainer of the Uhuru.
Wow. Say Uhuru to Brooks.
Yes. Uhuru. All right. So as we close the show tonight of the Reparations Report, I'm going to just make a few quick announcements. And I just made this full screen here by accident. Okay, so the USM National Convention. So I know that usually this pitch would involve encouraging you to start booking your flight if you haven't already, and looking into hotels, and et cetera, et cetera. But you don't even need to deal with that this year, unfortunately. Although it's always amazing to be amongst your comrades in person. But due to the situation, we are holding the convention online. And we're going to do everything we can to make it an extremely dynamic and engaging experience, so that you almost feel like you are in the room with Chairman Omali Yeshitela, with Penny Hess, with your comrades and members of the Uhuru Solidarity Movement. We're going to be using this Zoom webinar platform, so you can register by going to uhurusolidarity.org/register and participate in our 2-day conference, April 18th and 19th. And that's going to be an amazing conference to really talk about building the People's War, building our front of the People's War inside of the white community. And more than anything, what we want to talk about is what it's going to mean and look like right now to escalate the revolutionary struggle for reparations into the boardrooms of the upper echelon of corporate America and the moneyed sector of parasitic capitalism. We want to bring the reparations demand right to their doorstep. Fight to win concrete material reparations from the moneyed sector, from elements, from individuals and organizations and corporations of the billionaires in this country, to pay reparations to the Black Power Blueprint and the African Liberation Movement. So don't miss that. That's going to be April 18th and 19th. It's not a talk fest. It's designed to arm us and equip us to go into an even deeper phase of heightened struggle in the upcoming months. So that's April 18th and 19th, and it's going to be an amazing convention.
Yes, so, yes.
And then Omali taught me tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Chairman Omali Yeshitela's Facebook page and the Burning Spear YouTube channel. Incredible weekly study that Chairman Omali Yeshitela does consistently, no matter what region of the US he's in, and no matter whether there's a quarantine or not. Chairman Omali Yeshitela is live educating the people, providing profound leadership through these Sunday studies every Sunday. So that's tomorrow, 8 a.m. And we just want to encourage everyone again to donate to the Black Power Blueprint, blackpowerblueprint.org. And we want to
we got in a couple more, yeah.
Yes. Did you want to announce them, Penny?
Oh, go ahead, comrade.
Okay, so Jackson Hollingsworth put
Uhuru.
in, and Kristen Forthen put in 25 and said 1,000 Penny Hesses. Yes, I unite.
Uhuru. Uhuru, comrade. Just really, really appreciate both of Jackson and Kristen, yes, regular contributors to blackpowerblueprint.org, and just amazing comrades in their areas. Love you both, Uhuru.
Definitely. Kristen is a star recruiter right now, I gotta say. I want to give a special
recruiting her family. All right.
Yep.
Uhuru.
All right, so we are getting ready to close out today, but you can keep donating, keep contributing. Go to blackpowerblueprint.org, and we will be back on next Saturday at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 4 p.m. Central. And I also want to let people know about the Reparations Study Group. It's actually going to be on Wednesday nights from here on out. Wednesdays, not Thursdays. It's going to be on Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Eastern. So I want to encourage people to tune in, because this upcoming Wednesday, we're going to be doing an interview with Director Akile Anai of the African People's Socialist Party. So she's the editor-in-chief of the Burning Spear newspaper, which we study every week in the Reparations Study Group. So Chairwoman Penny Hess, any remarks you'd like to make? Well,
I do want to really salute everyone. We did get over the hump of 38,000. I was wrong. We were just getting to 38,000. So we're at 63% of our goal right now. Really want to appreciate everybody who has put into that. We're really working under the People's War Commission of the African People's Socialist Party to galvanize everything we can to break through all social media obstacles and win the people that we can right now. And of course, we know we're usually out there on tables, in the streets, door to door, talking to people. We can't wait to get back to that. But right now, we're winning the people in every way we possibly can. I really salute all of you. Everybody I know is going to be part of this. If you're part of the Uhuru movement, if you're not, join. Go to uhurusolidarity.org. Come to the convention, and let's go forward with unity through reparations.
Uhuru.
Uhuru.